Formula 1 is back for a brand new iteration of the F1 journey. This is season number 12. And before we can get back into the glory of hard-fought racing on the track, there has been a lot that has been happening prior to the racing. This is season number 12 and this is pre-season, and as you can see, it's a sunny day out in Silverstone where the teams and drivers have been getting to understand their new machinery for this year. Now, of course, last year we had a very competitive battle between Mercedes and Red Bull, with Valtteri Bottas and Tom taking it down to the final race of the season, where Tom managed to take the championship for Mercedes-Benz. And so far, in these ground effect era of regulations, it has been dominance for Mercedes, with back-to-back drivers' championships in the hands of Lewis Hamilton and Tom, and back-to-back constructors' championships. So, will that be the case again this season, or is some other team going to pop up and bring in a little bit of a surprise? But that's enough for the introduction. Let's get straight into seeing the teams and the drivers for season number 12 of the F1 journey. We kickstart pre-season with the team that unfortunately did the worst last year, and that was Renault. In fact, Renault were the only team last year to not score a single point throughout the entirety of last season. The rest of the constructors were all able to get some points on the board. So how are Renault going to go from literal rock bottom to back up to the front? Well, they're not going to be doing that by changing their driver lineup. Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly retain their drives at Renault for yet another season. So why is it that after such a poor year last year that Renault haven't gone ahead and made at least a change in their driver lineup? Well, after an intense winter break in which there was a lot of meetings that took place, Renault believed that this wasn't an issue which caused the driver lineups to change. They felt that there was enough talent within Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly to put in some solid performances. They just felt like the actual departments within the team itself needed some adjustments. So what have they done? There have been some new personnel that have been hired to go into different areas of these departments. There have been some personnel that have left the team. And there's also been some people within the team that have shifted roles, whether it's to a different department or whether it's a promotion or maybe even a demotion, because Renault have confirmed that some personnel have been either promoted or demoted within their own teams. So they've really gone to work to try and improve their infrastructure and make it better going forwards. But whilst all that work has been done off track, how's the work going on the track? Well, unfortunately for Renault, they haven't really been able to get a brilliant head start on things, as they completed the fewest laps of any team throughout the course of this testing. So why was that? Unfortunately, there's been a lot of problems with the Renault power unit. Now, the power unit seems to be pretty competitive compared to any other teams on the grid. The issue is reliability of it. There was a lot of engine failures and engine issues that were costing Renault crucial track time. Now, the key thing for Renault is that these were not severe in terms of multiple engines constantly going bust. In fact, at the time of the pre-season testing, only one engine failed for Daniel Ricciardo on day one of testing. The rest of the time, there was just a lot of sensors that just kept going wrong, and hopefully Renault can get on top of that. Now, with the car concept that Renault have done and have changed, has it actually made any other difference with the time that they've been on the track? Yes. Now, a lot of the teams in the paddock are very wary of one key strength that Renault has got: straight line speed. They've been able to retain straight line speed throughout the course of this new year, which is critical because by changing car concepts, being quick in a straight line is definitely going to help them. What's not going to help them, though, is an engine that's not going to power them to the finish line. Now, if there's one team that put themselves in the headlines for all of the wrong reasons last year, it was BMW. And they put themselves right back into the headlines in pre-season testing as Nico Rosberg returns to Formula 1 as the new BMW team principal. Now, first things first, this was a big shock to everybody in the paddock, as Nico Rosberg was rumoured to return to Formula 1, but many expected him to potentially get those racing gloves and that helmet back on and crack on with racing. But Rosberg has confirmed that whilst he really wanted to get back into Formula 1, he did not want to go back out on track as a racing driver. So instead, he's gone on as a team principal. And it's a great match, a German manufacturer with a German team principal. Great start. But that's not quite how Nico Rosberg has felt that it has gone. In fact, it's been a very rocky start, as Rosberg has entered this team with, well, a lot of issues to sort out. Of course, last year there was a lot of internal hostility between Stoffel Vandoorne and Mason Wood, and this meant that BMW had to have multiple meetings to try and figure out what was the best route forwards, as many people sided with Stoffel Vandoorne, but Mason Wood kept on stating that he was higher up than everybody else, and that when he rejoined Formula 1 and joins this BMW program, that he was given some special ownership deals within his contract that allowed him to be effectively a manager in some sort of way. Now, after multiple investigations went through, this was confirmed that that was completely wrong, and that Mason Wood didn't actually have any specific ownership-related deals within a contract that he had signed. Whether he potentially said that he overheard something being said to him, well, that's another matter, but regardless, this was not the case. In order to get rid of the hostility, a lot of the people within BMW were really happy with Stoffel Vandoorne. They felt like his performances were great, he was working well with the team, and crucially, he built up some good friendships with a lot of team members, and that was key to keeping him on board. Now, Nico Rosberg was happy with that as well, and kept Stoffel Vandoorne, but he wanted somebody refreshing and new to join Formula 1. In comes Oliver Bearman, who's getting his shot in Formula 1, and Bearman says that he couldn't be happier to get a chance in Formula 1 and is looking to prove that he's got what it takes to be one of the best out there, and he's got an opportunity alongside a coveted racing driver of Vandoorne alongside of him. But what's been going on then for BMW in pre-season testing? Well, overall, the car concept and the platform is actually not that bad, and it's something that BMW say that they can definitely work with moving forwards. They don't believe they're going to be taking a massive step towards the front of the field anytime soon. There's still a lot of work to do to iron out some issues with this car. The key one being tyre temperatures. At the moment, it seems that BMW are having an issue with their tyre temps, and it's whether they're too cold, they then get them too hot, and then when they try and cool them down again, they get too cold again. So in other words, they need to find that balance before they can move forwards. If you thought there was only one ex-Formula 1 driver returning to become a team principal, think again, because there's another one that's returning to become a team principal, and it's Fernando Alonso that is returning to Formula 1, and he's taking on the team principal role at Jaguar. Fernando Alonso, like Nico Rosberg, was desperate to get himself back into Formula 1, but wanted to get a little bit more down to it, and he's been given the team principal role over at Jaguar. And Fernando Alonso has already been getting straight into work at making this team his own. It's an all-new driver lineup at Jaguar, with Alex Albon back in Formula 1 and Liam Lawson getting his opportunity to race in F1. Fernando Alonso was key to signing both Alex Albon and Liam Lawson, thus Jaguar agreed and went and got them. That meant that the two drivers that they had before of Pato O'Ward and Callum Ilott both had nowhere to go within Formula 1. The both of them have left F1 and they have now gone back to IndyCar. This is a bit of a surprise, as a lot of people, when they saw Fernando Alonso announced as Jaguar's team principal, expected Alonso to start with these two drivers of Ilott and O'Ward, see where things were going right and wrong, and then take it from there. But Fernando Alonso was having none of it, and went straight to the Bucks to get them off of it to bring in his new sets of drivers. So crucially, why did Fernando Alonso get rid of Pato O'Ward and Callum Ilott and replace them with Liam Lawson and Alex Albon? Well, Fernando Alonso felt like straight away that Ilott and O'Ward, from what he'd seen whilst having a little bit of free roaming in the paddock last season, were not really that communicative with their engineers and mechanics throughout the course of last season. He felt like that when it came to issues within the car, especially in interviews, the drivers were not really saying much and really putting that much to use to help them. Even Jaguar was saying at points last season, we're not quite sure, as both drivers are saying different things about the car that are going wrong. And it was really quite confusing for them. So Fernando Alonso felt like, realistically, if Jaguar are to take a step in the right direction, they need two drivers that are not only quick and are fast, but they also need two drivers that know a lot about what they're driving. And that was quite a bold statement for Alonso to say, basically saying O'Ward and Ilott didn't really have a clue what the car was doing and how to help make a car go quick. So, fair play to him. He got rid of them and he's put in Albon and Lawson. Straight away, Jaguar have actually made some progress in this area though. They've spotted that the key elements that are going wrong with this car are starting at the front end. They felt like there's actually a decent amount of rear end grip, specifically in traction zones, but in the high speed corners around Silverstone, they were struggling a lot to get the front end turned in. By changing the front end, that was obviously helping them in terms of getting that balance right, but then it was unsettling the rear and allowing the tyre temperatures to get too hot. So overall, there's quite a significant imbalance, which both Lawson and Albon have caught on here. So it's a good starting point for them. Does this mean Jaguar are obviously going to be getting straight down to business and scoring points straight away? No, but crucially, with all this information and the crucial thing that Alonso has spotted, driver feedback, they can use that to help progress the car in the right direction with the correct correlation based on how the two drivers are feeling. Will it make a difference moving forward? Who knows, but a lot of people, including myself, are excited to see where Fernando Alonso can take this team. The next team to delve into is Audi, and finally, after lots of speculation about where he would be going for a new season of Formula 1, Sam has, after leaving McLaren, has decided to pick Audi for his brand new team. There was a lot of speculation about where Sam would go for a new season of Formula 1 after confirming that he would be leaving McLaren after his falling out with team principal Zak Brown, and he has decided to pick Audi. The speculation was that Sam was set and ready to sign for Red Bull, and Sam confirmed at Silverstone that Red Bull gave it everything to sign him, but when he saw what Audi was planning, it instantly swayed him towards the German manufacturer. And that got everybody asking, what is it that Audi's got planned that has allowed him to be so interested in this project? Of course, as we saw from last year, it was actually Red Bull that were the most competitive and probably the most improved out of the teams. Nobody really expected Red Bull to be challenging at the front of the field, but Valtteri Bottas took the championship right down to the final race, and that is something that caught the eye of many in the paddock. Why pick a team that's lower down the grid order than a team that's much higher up the grid order and potentially could go on and improve again this year? Well, we think we know the answer to that. But crucially, it wasn't just Sam that made an interesting move to go to Audi when Charles Leclerc was a driver that was fed up with waiting for Audi to get on with putting in a strong and competitive car. Carlos Sainz has made a shock departure from Porsche to join rivals Audi. Now, of course, Carlos Sainz was a race winner last year for Porsche and was part of the team that made massive gains throughout the course of the year with consistent, brilliant upgrades from the team to go from a car that was struggling to get into the points to the team that nobody could seem to beat. So why is it that Carlos Sainz has made this interesting move to get out of Porsche and come to Audi? Well, Carlos Sainz has called out Porsche, and he feels like Porsche did everything that they could to make sure that Rees was the man that was winning. And ultimately, at the end, while Carlos Sainz was ahead of Rees in the championship for the majority of it, Rees did actually beat Carlos Sainz last year for the championship position. Ultimately, it didn't really mean much, as obviously Porsche started so badly that it was for 5th in the championship, or potentially 4th anyway. So, that was quite key. Now, what was this, in quote, interesting plan that Audi had in mind to sway Sam? Well, we think it's down to their engine. And why is that? Well, crucially, because in pre-season testing, Audi had a very good base car platform. Both the drivers were happy with the car in the slow and the high-speed corners, but an interesting piece of information leaked out, and that there was a big engine upgrade that Audi had planned ready to put into the car for pre-season testing. But unfortunately, that upgrade failed. And why did it fail? Well, ultimately, it had too many issues once it was going through the dyno, which meant that unfortunately, they couldn't put it into the car, so had to go back to their base engine spec. Now, Audi have confirmed that this is indeed true and that they are preparing this failed engine upgrade to come earlier in the season. Unfortunately, they wanted it to be ready for round number 1, but now they're just going to have to wait a little bit longer until they do a couple of extra checks and then bring in that engine upgrade. The crucial thing is going to be, will Audi be competitive once this engine upgrade comes into play, or is it going to be a case of all this hope and zero performance on the track? Aston Martin were the team that made headlines in pre-season testing by signing the world champion Tom, who opted to leave Mercedes to join Aston Martin. Oscar Piastri has kept his seat with the team and Theo Pourchaire has been dropped from Formula 1. He no longer has a drive. So, with Aston Martin now signing Tom alongside of Oscar Piastri, do they have the combination to go ahead and take a potential championship? Well, first things first, let's discuss why Tom has decided to leave Mercedes-Benz after back-to-back Constructors' Championships and, of course, winning the title last year with the team to move to Aston Martin. Well, Tom has confirmed that he wanted a fresh start after winning the driver's title with Mercedes. Tom has confirmed that if for whatever reason he failed to win the World Drivers' Championship with Mercedes last season, that he would not have left the team. He specifically wanted to achieve the goal of winning the driver's title once again with the German outfit before he then decided to go elsewhere and find another team. This was critical in Aston Martin signing Tom. It's been confirmed that Aston Martin had been trying to sign Tom for the majority of last season, constantly giving him phone calls to try and sway him towards the Silverstone-based outfit. And they managed to get their man. But, of course, if he didn't win the title with Mercedes last year, he wouldn't have gone anywhere in the first place. Of course, Aston Martin have kept their title sponsorship with Petronas, unlike Red Bull, who of course decided to not obey to their contract that they had put in place from that one. And that's kind of actually made things a lot easier for the team as well. There's been a lot less controversy, especially at the start of the year. Of course, this was an issue that Petronas was trying to deal with Red Bull at this point in pre-season and for the first few rounds of last year. That's been put to bed and they can crack on with it. So what's been going on with their car? Well, everything right, apparently. Both the drivers have been super impressed with the Aston Martin after testing, with both drivers really happy with the overall balance of the car and the fact that they could really push hard on this new iteration of Formula 1 car. And this is something that Aston Martin have been working hard with. They felt like last season that Theo Pourchaire was just not pulling his weight and that the information that Oscar Piastri was bringing to the table was great. But while Aston Martin had a great car last year, the fact that Pourchaire couldn't get into the points as often as Piastri could meant that they weren't able to make any form of gains in the Constructors' Championship. Now they feel like not only with this car improved from last year, but with Tom at the wheel alongside Piastri, both will push each other to get the maximum out of this car, and a lot of teams in the paddock are worried about what Aston Martin have up their sleeve. If there was a team that you could define having a very disappointing year, you would probably put Ferrari in that list of it. Ferrari last season hyped themselves up to be the team to beat, making them the unstoppable force of having the Ferrari car. With Max Verstappen and Lando Norris at the wheel, they said that nobody would be able to touch them and the paddock needed to watch out. Well, they did watch out, and everybody watched Ferrari not get a single win at all last year. Ferrari started the season quite well, with a decent amount of podium finishes and close calls to getting a race victory. But as the year went on, Ferrari got worse and every other team caught them up and overtook them, with the likes of Porsche, Red Bull, McLaren and Mercedes all usurping them in that spot ahead of them in the Constructors' Championship, leaving Ferrari to finish a disappointing 5th. So how have they gone about making sure that this sort of disappointment doesn't happen again? Well, first things first, that's not going to happen with driver lineup changes. They still feel like they've got a great driver lineup with Max Verstappen and Lando Norris at the wheel of the Ferrari. But the crucial thing that has been going on behind the scenes at Maranello is just being a lot less cocky. Ferrari have admitted that they got really cocky last season and it hurt them badly. Now, of course, like I just mentioned at the start of this point with Ferrari, they kept on bigging themselves up as the team to beat. They had the greatest car, they had the greatest driver pairing, nothing could stop them, and ultimately, that's not what it's down to. It's down to every single core element within the team working better than the other competitors out on track. And realistically, when you get cocky, it can always backfire on you, and that's what it did. So Verstappen and Norris have said that they've been getting hard at work trying to help improve Ferrari's car in key areas. Their qualifying pace was very competitive last year, but their race pace was really poor, slipping off especially after the first stint as the fuel started to burn and the cars got lighter in race trim. This was something that confused the team quite a lot, as while they were quick in qualifying, surely that point in the race, they would actually get better and better. But it just seemed that as the race went on, they just got slower and slower and slower. So they've been working to try and mitigate that with a couple of changes to their car concept. And crucially, they're just going to work on getting on with their car individually and make sure that they do more work with their car without the rest of the entire nation understanding how good they are. In other words, they're just going to keep quiet about it and get on with it behind closed doors and not try and give away that they're the greatest thing on the planet. So let's see if Ferrari have become a lot less cocky and put their work where it matters rather than at places where it's irrelevant, aka behind the microphone and saying that you're going to do well. Because it hasn't worked, and now it's time for them to make it work. Another team last year that started off so well and then fell away so badly was McLaren. McLaren were a team that everybody felt would go on and win the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship last year, but that didn't happen. Whilst Sam was very much in the title picture with Tom and Bottas throughout the first 9 races, things dramatically changed and that eventually faded away, and McLaren slipped further down the order as the season went on. So why was that the case? Well, Zak Brown has hoped that with Sam gone, the morale in the team will now very dramatically improve and things can go in the right direction for them. Zak Brown and Sam had a massive falling out throughout the course of the year, with Sam constantly calling out the team for lacking the winning mentality, and he wanted more from them in order to help bolster the McLaren's performance. Zak Brown didn't take that very lightly, and things got hostile between the two, with Sam opting to leave the team, and he said that he would never return to McLaren unless Zak Brown was sacked. Hence why Zak Brown has come out and said that, well, the morale of the team is now going to be much better that he's gone. So who's gone ahead and replaced him? It's Valtteri Bottas, the man that took Tom to the final race of the season last year to win the championship, has swapped Red Bull for McLaren as George Russell retains his seat for another year. So why is it then that Red Bull's Valtteri Bottas decided to swap from that to McLaren? Well, Bottas felt like Red Bull didn't actually really want to keep Bottas in the first place, and felt like that when it came to him signing for Red Bull, it was almost a case of, I guess you'll do because there's no one else better. And while Bottas took it all the way to the final race of the season, he just felt like if the Red Bull continued to be competitive, Red Bull would basically go out and try and find somebody else and get rid of him. So he wanted to go ahead and make a move before a top seat closed on him and there was one available, being McLaren. So what are they doing at this pre-season test then? Well, so far, so good. The team are looking very, very comfy. They still feel that they're lacking a little bit of performance, specifically in the medium speed corners, but overall, the car seems to be doing quite well. Handling okay and giving them a lot of grip, which is a positive outburst. They believe that with a couple of upgrades to put onto this car, they could definitely catapult themselves further up the order. But for now, it's a good baseline and a fresh start for this team. With one key driver leaving Porsche, another one comes in instead. Charles Leclerc takes the vacant seat at Porsche after Carlos Sainz decided to leave the team at the end of last year. Meanwhile, Rhys has signed a new deal which kept him at Porsche for this season. Something that not many people seem to have caught on is that Rhys's contract at Porsche expired at the end of last season, and there was a lot of reports that were coming out stating that he actually had an option to extend by a further year, so therefore nobody took much interest in Rhys deciding to leave the team. But Porsche officially confirmed, as well as Rhys, that the contract that Rhys had, which expired at the end of last season, was the official expiry date. There was no options to extend. It was that or free agent. So Rhys, by getting this contract, was absolutely key for Porsche. They really wanted to get it done. They really wanted him to stay at the team. And in fact, it was Rhys that was also very key in allowing Porsche to get Charles Leclerc in the team. When they went ahead and created the new contract for Rhys to sign, they were very wary that they felt like Rhys would not want a teammate that would cause them problems, similar to what Carlos Sainz did in a type of way. Of course, obviously, Sainz has come out and said that Porsche wanted Rhys to win. Rhys and Porsche have denied that, of course, with Sainz doing better when the Porsche car was not great, compared to when the Porsche upgrades came into play, Rhys got stronger. However, when it came to Rhys getting a new contract, they felt like they'd have to find somebody that was inferior to Rhys. But Reese, when Porsche were coming out and saying we're quite interested in Charles Leclerc, simply said, we'll go and sign him then. I'll take on anyone and face anyone within the team, and we'll do what needs to be done to not only work as a team, but to also beat them on the track in the same machinery. It'll do better for me, was Reese's quote, which was very powerful for the Porsche team, and they got straight on the phone with Charles Leclerc and got the contract done. So what's been going on in pre-season testing then for Porsche? Well, it's a complete stark contrast to last year. Of course, last year, Porsche actually had a nightmare of a pre-season testing. We all remember the story in which Porsche actually had their wind tunnels confirming that their old specification stuff that they started the season with was quicker than their other stuff that they decided not to go with in the end, until they did some more resimulation work and some recalibrations within the wind tunnel and all of their data, which confirmed that the stuff they decided not to use was actually quicker and had a better developmental growth than the stuff that they were using. So they started the season poorly, swapped it all over, upgraded the stuff that was actually meant to be better, and turned out to be better. So they start the season very, very well. So, what have Porsche been up to? Well, they've obviously started with a good baseline, and that's the key thing. But where it's gone wrong for Porsche is with their front wing. Now, Porsche entered into pre-season with two specifications of front wing. They had an initial launch spec front wing, and then they had a pre-season front wing, which was a newest specification. What they wanted to do was run comparisons between the two front wings and confirm that the newer one that they had crafted was better than the one that they had initially had for their launch spec, and then run it for the start of the year. But unfortunately, Porsche are not able to do that, as it has been confirmed that unfortunately the new specification front wing that they had developed failed the front wing flexi test, meaning that they were not able to run it as it was illegal. This meant that Porsche were not able to get viable data with both specifications of front wings, meaning that they start the season on a slight back foot. And we mean that gracefully, because Porsche was still putting in some super competitive lap times throughout the course of the test. So it doesn't really mean that they're going to be slipping far down the order, but it just means that that potential advantage that they may have had at the front of the field has closed down quite dramatically, and they might be a step back compared to the rest. But it depends on the optimization. Porsche say that the new front wing specification can definitely be used, they just need to make some modifications to it to make sure that it doesn't fail the flexi test again. But it shows that Porsche are pushing to get absolutely everything out of every single component that they have. Did you really think I'd be done with drivers returning to Formula 1? Well, I'm not. Sebastian Vettel is back racing in Formula 1 once again. He is replacing Valtteri Bottas while Sergio Perez is given another shot at Red Bull. This is probably the biggest surprise of them all. Sebastian Vettel is back in Formula 1 and he is back racing for Red Bull. So why has this happened and where's this come about? Well, firstly, Red Bull have said that during this test, during the winter, they were caught off guard by Bottas leaving, so they went and got Sebastian Vettel. Red Bull say that while Bottas felt like he wasn't able to be kept for longer than what he thought he would be, Red Bull were actually very, very happy with Bottas. Well, so they say. And they really didn't expect him to leave the team. So Red Bull had to act, and they acted fast. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Sebastian Vettel was actually set to become the team principal for BMW. BMW made it clear that they wanted a German person to be the team principal for their German manufacturer. And Sebastian Vettel really wanted to get back into Formula 1. But with no clear pathways to get racing again, it seemed like the next best thing for Vettel to do was to get into a team principal role and build a team from the ground up. But then all of a sudden, Bottas left. A seat was open at Red Bull, a team that took second in the Constructors' Championship last year, and a team that, with Valtteri Bottas at the wheel regardless, was able to fight for a World Championship. That actually became open. And Vettel's mind was made up. He didn't want to become a team principal just yet, but he wanted to give it one more go in Formula 1. And that's what he's got, and he's got it with Red Bull. So can he do it again? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see if he's able to do it. But as things stand at the moment, it seems that the car that he's got after testing is certainly as competitive as it was last year, and that gives him a lot of optimism going into the brand new season of Formula 1. Red Bull say that they're very happy with the car. Vettel certainly has been very happy with the car. Perez has also been giving some compliments, although not as much as what Vettel has been saying. But overall, their times have been very, very quick. And they've been trading the fastest times throughout the course of testing with some other teams on the grid. So it's all looking rosy, and Vettel is back again, and the shock, well, keeps on coming. Last but certainly not least, it's the team that everybody is looking to beat. Mercedes-Benz, the team that has dominated the past 2 years of Formula 1. Lewis Hamilton wins the World Drivers' Championship 2 seasons ago, and Mercedes won the Constructors' Championship. Last season, it was Tom that won the Drivers' Championship, and Mercedes once again took the Constructors' crown, and Hamilton and Tom proved to be a formidable partnership that nobody was able to beat. But with one part of that dominant duo gone, Lewis Hamilton stays with Mercedes after Tom has left. There was a lot of speculation, particularly last season, as to whether both Tom and Lewis Hamilton would leave and how Mercedes would cope with both of them leaving. In the end though, Lewis Hamilton has decided to put pen to paper to another 1-year deal with the team, keeping him at Mercedes-Benz, and that gave them an opportunity to put in Kimi Antonelli, who was given his chance in Formula 1 by Toto Wolff. With both Lewis Hamilton and Tom rumoured to leave, Mercedes-Benz were very concerned about who they would be able to put into that car if they both did indeed leave. But with Hamilton agreeing to stay with the team for one more season, that gave them an opportunity to put in their young prospect Antonelli to go alongside one of the greatest drivers of all time in terms of race wins and world championships. This means that he has got the perfect teacher, and Kimi Antonelli was really grateful for the opportunity to race at Mercedes and thanked Toto Wolff and the team for this opportunity. But of course, with the dominant duo unfortunately being split, being Hamilton and Tom, there was a lot of interviewers that were asking Toto Wolff about Tom's decision to leave. One of them asked the question, how do you feel that now the partnership is over? Toto Wolff smiled to the interviewer and specifically said, in quotes, "It's not over as you see it." Now this was something that really caught the attention of everybody in the paddock when Toto Wolff said that at the team principal's press conference after day 2 of pre-season testing. What did he mean by the term "it's not over as you see it"? Is there something that we're missing? Well, we're just going to have to find out a little bit more about that towards the start of the year and try and understand what Toto meant by that. But let's talk about Mercedes on track though. Now, pre-season has been a little bit tricky for Mercedes-Benz. They decided to go ahead and make some more changes to their car after the dominance of the last 2 years, and they have actually taken a little bit of a step backwards. So why is this? Well, they've been having some problems with the floor. Specifically, they say the floor edges and the Venturi tunnels. They believe that this can easily be rectified, but effectively, they had 2 different floor specifications going into this testing session. And while Hamilton ran with one, and then Antonelli with another, and then when they did a half day each, they both ran with 2 different floors, they overall got the performance data to confirm that there was elements of one floor that was better than the other and other elements of the other floor that was better than the other one. So they need to find a way to combine the 2 strengths of each of the floors to put into one ultimately good floor. And that is something that's going to be a little bit tricky as they try and work out what's the best way forward. Mercedes don't believe that they'll be right at the front as they feel that their development has been slightly hampered by these issues with their floor. But they hope that they can get to the bottom of this problem and get themselves right back up the front where they have been the last 2 seasons. The final thing to confirm is the race calendar for Season 12 of the F1 Journey. It has been confirmed that F1 is set for an 18-race season, and there have been a couple of changes to the calendar. Firstly, the Canadian Grand Prix is back, and it replaces the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, and the US Grand Prix now is going to be taking place at COTA, with Miami dropped for this new Formula 1 season. So let's take you through the entirety of the calendar for this year. Round number 1 of the Formula 1 season will kickstart at Bahrain, with round number 2 taking place at Saudi Arabia. Next, they'll be going over to Abu Dhabi before completing the Middle Eastern leg at Qatar. Round number 5 will take place at Australia, with the 6th round coming in at Japan. Round 7 is the Singapore Grand Prix, and then it's time for the European leg, starting things off with the Dutch Grand Prix. Then round number 9 is the British Grand Prix, with round number 10 officially then being the Italian Grand Prix taking place at Monza. Round number 11 is the Spanish Grand Prix, followed up by the Austrian Grand Prix, which is round number 12. Round number 13 is the Portuguese Grand Prix, with round number 14 being the Belgian Grand Prix. Round number 15 is then the Canadian Grand Prix, which makes its return to Formula 1, followed by round number 16, which is the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Round number 17 is then the US Grand Prix, this time taking place at COTA. Then the final round of the season is the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos. There you have it then. You have seen it all. You have seen the new teams, you've seen their liveries, you've seen the driver lineups, and you've seen ex-drivers return to Formula 1 and 2 ex-drivers becoming team principals for their respective teams. F1 is back and we are ready to get underway with round number 1 of the Bahrain Grand Prix. If you guys have enjoyed this pre-season video, feel free to drop it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well, and I will catch you guys for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Take care all, peace.